part of this is in a book called How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek. So he's a physical therapist. He studied with the North American Church, the Native North American Church. He was a strength and conditioning coach for Chicago Bulls and a bunch of sports teams and athletes, and then he eventually got more into the spiritual and more holistic view as he realized a lot of these superstar athletes' problems couldn't be solved by just the right diet and exercise. Sometimes it was, living against their values, or trying to live double lives, or, pretending to be a good Christian man on the outside, and then you've got 3 phones, one for your girlfriend and one for your mistress and one for your wife. And when people live that way, just as an example, you're not living in truth with what you're putting out there. So if that's really what you desire, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I think we're allowed to live any way we want as long as we're not hurting other people. But if that's the way you desire to live, don't pretend to be something you're not. And that's a big part of his work, is just focusing on what it is that we want to be and what we want to do with our life, and how to break that down so we can move forward to what our goal is. So the first piece that he talks about is, what is your one love? So what is your dream, goal, or objective in your life? And if that's not something that you know for sure right now, the best way to find that would be, what is your nightmare? And the opposite of that. So he likes to quote a psychotherapist, Jamie Wesh, who said, if you have a big enough dream, you don't need a crisis. So a lot of times what happens is, I'll use myself as like a mini example, but binge drinking, eating like shit, being overweight, then it hits a crisis of, okay, I don't want to be overweight. Like I see the young guys in high school who are chiseled and they look good. I want to look and feel like that. So not needing to get a crisis of a cancer diagnosis, or losing your job or a relationship, not waiting for those moments to find what your true dream or goal is to move forward in life. So you don't want to have to wait for the devil knocking at your door to be like, okay, now I'm going to follow my dreams. And we could use the other person who was here with us. You could tell he chased a lot of big money dreams, and he got them, but now he's like, oh darn, like there's this missing piece that I'm after. And like, kudos to him, because a lot of people don't make it to that decision, but he got to that point where, okay, I got the money, I solved all these issues in my life, but like there's a hole in here somewhere that's not making sense. And I think that's a good example of where what we want to avoid. We want to find that compass, especially with being at your age. And that compass might change throughout the years, and the passions might change. It might be one thing today, and then 10, 15 years, it's a completely different thing, and that's okay. And, reaching mastery in one thing is always a great stepping stone to something else. So if you take tarot, for example, if, you reach mastery of that and business and all these things, that's only going to lend itself to something later in life. If you decide like, oh, okay, I want to do this, or I want to be a mother and start a family, you've already cut your teeth or gained all this experience, and just your trip into the forest for 3 days. Now you know what hard is. So moving forward, when a challenge comes up, it's like, oh no, okay, I know what hard is. Like, I can do this, because you've met that dragon in the cave and you slayed them, and you come out on the other side to be here with us. So it's like, okay, all these challenges can be small. You can reflect back on that time where, oh, I conquered that, and I can move forward. So, quotes here, your dreams are a snapshot of your future, and that's Albert Einstein. So we want to identify your one love, and then figure out how we're going to get to that. So old habits are hard to change. So what we try building new habits, and there's a law in physiology. It's called the law of facilitation. So the electric pulse running through a nerve, it becomes easier for that muscle or that thing to be activated another time. So essentially every time you curl your arm like this, each time it gets easier. So for her taking a step, the law of facilitation will say, every time she takes a step and a nerve impulse goes through from her brain to her leg, it becomes easier. So same with doing a habit. So every time you make a habit of, doing breath work, or, you say, oh, I'm not going to have this candy bar, I'm going to have this instead, and whatever it might be. It could be walking instead of taking the bus, like anything like that. Or like, habit you're trying to change, whether it's like a smoking or, whatever. Every time you make that choice, it becomes easier and easier and easier for you to make that choice. And a labor of love is always easier to manage with love than without love. So if you have a one love, you're going to be able to say, oh, you know what, like I can sacrifice a night out with my friends partying. I can, I can sacrifice a meal, or, maybe this fun trip. So something to think of is, who can you love becoming? So the person that the thing that you're working toward, what could you love working toward as yourself? What's that, this hero's journey and an overarching piece of your life. Who's the Riley you see where you're like, oh, I could love working toward that? So establish a motive for yourself. And what do you love enough to change for? Is it your family? Is it your dog? Is it, a great example could be, think of all the other kids in your situation that grew up just like you. Can you be a hero for them? That's another way to be motivated. You could be the inspiration and hero to someone just like you, where you started off. So for myself, I might be like, and this is part of my one love of what got me into the health and physical fitness realm, was like, okay, I was given this victim story from doctors in the hospitals and stuff. So it's like, I want to be able to say, hey, I had cancer. You might have cancer right now, but if you take control of your health and take your authority back, and you become the hero, you can attain this too. I'm just one person, just like anybody else. I'm nothing special. So that's a way to, look forward to say, okay, what do I love enough to change for? Who do I love enough to change for? Or maybe it's what inspiration is going to get me going and motivated. And it might be, okay, I could be that person who is just like me and motivate those people. And you might be a beacon of light for folks in your situation. So how can we change? So you want to avoid ruminating on what you don't have, because all that's going to do is just energize old pathways and then roots in your past. So celebrate what you do have. Let's take stock of, example of what you just went through, and give yourself a pat on the back. Recognize that, like, that's an accomplishment. That's something to be proud of. That's something to brag about. And then, like what I touched on earlier, is becoming a living example of what is possible in your love. There might be another young girl who's into tarot, and it's like, oh wow, she might see you in 5 years and be like, holy shit, like, she's just crushing it. Or maybe something different. Maybe you make it back to Wiki and you catch all the stories and the myths from the elders, and it's like, oh shit, like Riley's now the wisdom keeper. It's like, oh, like, cool, I want to be around her. And then you're, once again, in your love. So choosing your love, dream, or goal, be realistic. It's best to set a goal that's no greater than 50% of what you've previously achieved. Commitment is greater when your goal is your own. Achieving goals under pressure and influenced by others increases the risk of non-completion. So, don't fall into the patterns of what your friends might say is like what you should chase, or an easy example could be like, you know, you and a friend say we're gonna go to the gym on New Year's, and you know, don't set yourself on that pathway, because now you're it's like a competition. So then we have process and outcome goals. So process goals are goals that you have along the journey that are like mini milestones where you can congratulate yourself. So that sushi date, that's a process goal. Oh no, that's an outcome goal. So you know, you had an outcome, and you're like, hell yeah, like I'm gonna go have sushi by myself. I don't care if everyone thinks I look weird. Like I just earned that. Where a process goal might be like, you know, okay, I know if I hit this goal in like a month, I'm gonna, you know, go out for dinner or have sushi, whatever that might be. You know, maybe you go on a trip or something. So that's stuff along the way of your one love in reaching that goal, that you say, okay, like this is, I've made it to this spot, and it should be acknowledged that I got this far, and I need to take a moment to congratulate myself on how big of a deal it is to get that far, but also that you're still working towards your goal, and not just get, okay, I'm only 10%. Oh geez, you know, you could get caught in that self-sabotage. But if you're constantly like, okay, oh no shit, I got 10%, like dang, we're doing it. And then you have these, you know, mini birthday parties along the way as you grow. So it allows room to celebrate when achieving realistically achievable milestones, so that motivation stays high. So being committed is more important than being rigid. You know, it's more important that, you know, someone eats a piece of cake but continues their diet, rather than, you know, they have that piece of cake and then they give up because like, oh shit, I just can't stick to it. I'm like a piece of crap. Like, what am I doing? You know, not be super rigid to the point where you can't keep to your goal, but be loose enough that you can keep that commitment. So example, the Qigong. I came out here, before this, I'm like, I don't even know how many days I'm at, maybe 10, 20 days straight of doing the Qigong.
More than that.
Yeah, you think so?
I think you're over a month.
I think so?
I think you're over a month.
So my teacher says that, in the he learns from his teacher, a gong is 90 days, no, 100 days of doing Qigong in a row without, and as soon, if you miss a day, you gotta go back. So this is like it's a personal goal for me to get a gong, and then also for me, it'll be like a process goal, because ultimately I think it's something that's going to help me for the rest of my life if I do that every day. So if I hit that gong after 100 days, it's like, okay, I can do it, and also it can't be that hard, so I can just continue to make that like a daily habit. So when we came out here, I was like, when we sent you guys off, I was like, look at Dariya, like, shit, it's like 7:30. I just want to lay down. I'm super sore. Like, oh, okay, here we go. Without my stick. And I did my little circles in the tent. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it. But like the last 3 days, that's what I've been doing. Okay, I'm not doing it in the morning because it's too crazy here. But I'll commit to it. I don't need I need to wake up in the morning, like do at home. I need to get up early before everyone else and go outside and do it. It's like, okay, I don't need to be super rigid. I'm not gonna give up just because I didn't do it in the morning. It's like, okay, I'll find the time. The time was there when we're in the tent relaxing. Nope. So practice the 80-20 principle. I'm sure you heard that before. 80-20, so, you know, stick to 80% of, you know, eating healthy, and then you could fuck off on the other 20%. Don't, you know, bash yourself, and that goes for anything, you know. Even in like spirituality or stuff like that, it's okay to, you know, not say gratitude 20% of the time. No one's gonna notice, or the great spirits are gonna look down on you because we, you know, oh, we didn't do ancestor plate. Oh gosh, like that's it. You're kicked out of the afterlife. You know, they're not letting you in. So we can send this to you as well. I'm not going to make you have to burn your little pencil out. But these are 10 questions for finding your one love. What do you dream about? What makes you feel good? What gives you a sense of purpose? What geography would you choose? And sometimes we're not always in the place that feels right. You know, some people it's like, hey man, I just wanna, a great example would be like being vegan. I have a buddy and his thing is being vegetarian. It's a spiritual thing for him, and he spends like a lot of time in Hawaii and stuff like that, and like that lends itself to that because you can eat fruit and vegetables all day there, just sweat it out. And that's an example of like what geography. Some people it's like, oh, I just want to be by the ocean. Dariya loves being by the lake. She wants to be by water. Her like ultimate goal is, okay, we're around water. You might be, you know, maybe near a reserve for working with elders, working with people, or maybe it's a bigger city. You know, some people it's Manitoulin Island. Some people it's, okay, like me for example, we were on Manitoulin Island and it's like, oh, I want to go train jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, and you know, if I want to eventually coach people and help them with their health, like I can't be in the middle of nowhere because there's no one to help. So ultimately my geography is like not in a big city, but somewhere like Sudbury feels good. It's home. I love the nature around here. I'm close to all the things I love. I love Killarney, I love the island, I love coming back here. So that'd be an example for like geography. It's not, you know, you don't have to you know, pick a country on the map. It could be like, oh, what do I like? Do I like the mountains? Do I like the valley? You know, do I like the rivers, the lakes? What are you passionate about? What people would you surround yourself with? Number 7, what values are needed to support your dream? You know, it might be something like, oh, I can't be around people who drink alcohol. I know that's a big one for me. Not that I can't be around it, but I had a bad past with alcohol, so I don't want to expose myself to, and I think I'm past the point of making bad decisions and choosing to drink when I really shouldn't or don't want to. But like, I don't want to be around drunk people. So, you know, I'm not going to put myself around people who are drinking and partying. And it might be, you know, I also love martial arts, but sometimes I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of gym bros. So that's just a kind of idea of like, okay, what kind of people do I want to be around? Maybe you want to be around like-minded people, but you don't want them all to be like-minded like you. Maybe you want like, okay, cool, like I want someone with a different flavor though. I want to be around someone who's into herbalism, or someone's into Chinese medicine, because I'm into Ojibwe stuff, and I don't need to be around 10 other Ojibwe people, because then like we're all just talking the same stuff. What values are needed to support your dream? What would be your chosen working environment? So another example of that could be like, do you want to be in an office? Do you want to be able to do this from your home? Do you want to be able to do it on the street? Maybe you're a totally social person. You'd love to be like a street vendor where it's just like, come here, let me read your cards. Or maybe you're like, no, like I like the private, like come into this like creepy little basement area and like really, you know, witchy vibe. Or maybe you're like, no, I like to do it in like a park or by the lake. I really want like a earthy experience. So that's another, you know, where you do it. Like maybe you don't want to be in an office or like a high-rise type thing. Maybe it's like, oh, I want to operate out of my house. I don't want to operate out of a cubicle somewhere or like in the Rainbow Mall. What is the income you need to live your desired lifestyle? I think my teacher speaks to this a lot too, is sometimes in our dreams, you know, I would love a Ferrari, but in reality, it's, you know, what kind of money would me and Dariya need to live the life we want? If it was traveling with a baby and finding Polaris, and you know, maybe it's a few trips a year, you know, is it $1 million or is it just $200,000? You know, some people want to be a vagabond, and it's like maybe it's just $50,000 so you could hop from, you know, sunny island to sunny island. So there's, you know, we can get carried away with the, oh, it'd be like mansion, it'd be awesome. Like, yeah, brand new trucks, cars, okay, cool, like fly to Barbados. But in reality, your dream might say, okay, you know, like I just really want a modest dream. I just want a cute little house near my people. I want, you know, just enough money to travel when I want to travel. I want to buy the things I want to buy. Maybe it's $100,000, maybe it's 200,000. Maybe it's, you know, you and a partner making 200,000 a year. So, you know, finding a number that you think feels realistic to what your goal is. And like I said, that could change. It could be, you know, with Turo, I'd be happy with, you know, getting out of where I'm living now, or staying where I'm living now and having like this much income so I could just visit these places. Or maybe it's like I want to get out of where I am and have my own place in this whatever area. And then knowing that number, because then you can figure out, okay, like how can I bring my services, and what do I charge, and you know, what kind of people am I looking for to provide my services to. And then the big one, what level of responsibility are you ready to accept? So even what I can do too is I can send you that page and you can print it off. But even just going back to that and just scribbling new stuff in, you know, go back to it once a month, every few months, and oh shit, you know, like, okay, cool, like I think this is more of what I wanted than like what I thought it was a month ago, or 2 months ago, or a year ago, or whatever. And you can go back and like refine those down over and over and over, and then essentially your compass needle is going to get finer and finer and finer to where there's only one option, and you're not searching, because it's just, there's only one way to go. When you narrow down on things so much, and you get finer and finer and finer, there's only one route you can take, as opposed to, you know, the more vague and the more broad it is, you have more and more options. But if you're super specific on all the answers that you have there, what you're looking for is going to be super obvious, and the path there is going to be super straightforward. Not that it'll be easy, but it'll be straightforward. So after our one love, there's two forces. So with Taoism, you have your yin and yang, your two forces that make up the entire universe. The two fish, and the two dragons. You have light and dark, but there's a little piece of light about to overcome the darkness, and a little bit of darkness about to overcome the light. So these are the forces that we need to manage in our day-to-day life to get our one love. So this is our balance, our baseline. So it's the balance specific to your dream. Now you balance depends on how you desire to express and experience yourself. So an example of some yin aspects would be, you know, wet, a seed, night, cooling, slower, parasympathetic, unity, nature, accumulating, water, earth, working in, create, desire, nurture, spirituality, silence. Those are all yin aspects of the feminine. And then your masculine or yang aspects would be dry, sprout. You have an action there. It's sprouting. It's day, warming, faster, sympathetic, division, provoke, spending, air, fire, working out, transform, your will, industry, science, language. Those are all outgoing things. And the yin is all bringing in. So it's balancing those pieces in your life. So an example could be if you're staying up too late, too often, that'd be very yang. So then you're depleting the yin side, so you're constantly essentially burning the fire. You need to come with something yin and cooling to deal with that I guess we could call it condition of over expenditure. Just like if we rest too much and sleep in too much, that's too yin, and we're not going to get to do what we need to do. You know, if we just sit on the couch too much and rest, or you know, if we just sat in an ashram and meditated for months on end, we're going to lose all our muscle because we're not doing the yang. We're not you know, burning that fire. So seeing where in our lives, you know, where can we balance that out? Maybe you're working too hard and you're like, okay, maybe I need to step back and, you know, do more inward stuff. I need to meditate. Or maybe you're doing too much inward stuff and you're too much tarot, too much meditating, too much breath work. It's like, okay, I just need to go for a run. Like I need to stoke this fire and burn off some energy. Because then one is just going to pull you in and create conditions that go along with being too yin, and the other ones will get conditions that'll come up from being too yang. You know, you could have joint problems, inflammation, fire, it's hot. Or you could have an osis, like an endometriosis from being too yin. So these conditions can come up, so we want to have that balance. Okay, where am I being too feminine in my life and too masculine? You know, oftentimes being a single woman, you can have too much yang, too much masculine, because you're busy fighting the world off. Like, hey, creep, get away from me. Like, no, like you said earlier, like independent woman. Like sometimes being the independent woman would cause us to be too yang, and it's like you're not tapping into your divine feminine because you're busy like establishing your boundaries, trying to chase after your dreams and goals. And then sometimes it's like you're doing the goal and dream thing and chasing after these things and trying to keep the world at bay to protect yourself, that we're not like loving and caressing ourselves. We're not being calm. We're not, you know, dancing or playing music or these things that nurture ourselves. So realizing, okay, where in my life am I too fiery and where am I too cool and soft? And you know, they'll probably send out to you like, okay, like this is where I need to push myself. This is where I need to caress myself and be gentle. Maybe it's mental talk. Maybe it's like, okay, you know, I beat myself up all the time. I got to start loving my thoughts about XYZ, my job or my money situation or whatever it might be. So after your one love and your two forces, we have three choices. So we always have a choice. There are three choices we can make in any relation to any person, place, or thing. So optimal, suboptimal, and do nothing. So, you know, your optimal will be good for all on your dream team, and suboptimal will be good for you but not for others. And do nothing can be time out. You need more time to decide. You know, you might not want to decide on the vision quest right away. You might be like, okay, give me a week to think about it, and then, you know, let me check my bank account and, you know, see with my family. I gotta get someone to watch my dog. So it's time to like game plan more. Or apathy, where you don't care. So you can make the optimal, suboptimal, or indifference, which is I'm not too sure. Either give me more time to think about it, or like whatever. So those are the choices we have. So some examples. So the three choices are use of your free will as well. So the optimal, your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual free will is your three choices. So in the optimal would be joy, vitality, well-being, open, love, efficient, unity, progressive evolution, optimal, and virtue. So that's in your optimal choice. Another way to say it would be like yes, no, or maybe. So your suboptimal choices look like vice. So it's something you're addicted to. Suboptimal, regressive evolution, division, inefficient, fear, being closed off, disease, fatigue, depression. So those are all things that would result from a suboptimal choice. And then your indifference or do nothing, apathy, fatigue, disease, dogmatic, defiant, deficient, isolation, halts evolution, and indifference. So when you come to, say, a precipice where it's like, okay, what do I do with, my health, or like, what am I gonna do in my living situation? You can look back at that three choices. Okay, like, what's the optimal, suboptimal? It might be like, okay, I can move out of here, but I lose this support system I have here. Maybe it's a friend or family, and if I move in here, okay, cool, it'll be nice for these reasons, but I might be leaving this crew of people behind. It might not be. It might seem optimal at first, but then it becomes suboptimal. And it's good if you're, asking yourself, for example, with the vision quest afterwards, if you're like, oh, I think this is my one love. You go through the questions like, okay, what do I do next? And you can refine those 10 questions. Okay, what's the optimal one here? And pick through those one at a time. So in Paul Chek's system, he actually he steals this kind of from Hippocrates. So Hippocrates was known as the father of medicine, and he's the one who says do no harm. It's the Hippocratic oath that doctors take. It's first, do no harm. He said things like, give me power to create fever and I'll cure any disease. And Hippocrates came up with a system called the Three Doctors. In Hippocrates' days, it would have sounded like this. It would have been Dr. Happiness, Dr. Diet, and Dr. Quiet. But when Paul took this idea to the modern world, what he found is, we don't live lives like they did 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So he had a doctor movement, because we're in a much more sedentary civilization globally for a lot of people. So he added that in. So your 4 doctors is your inner guidance system for creating sustainable well-being and body-mind harmony. So you have your Dr. Happy, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Movement, and Dr. Diet. So that could look like, Dr. Happiness would be your chief physician. They're the one in charge. So everyone answers to Dr. Happiness. Because ultimately, if you're not happy, nothing else is going to matter. Because you could be doing everything. You could be doing the movement, you could be doing the diet, and you could be doing the quiet time, right? But if you're not happy, none of that matters. It won't create health. It won't create abundance. It won't create your dreams if you're not happy. So Dr. Happiness is core values, legacy, emotional intelligence, mental self-management, dreams, creativity, learning, growth, motive, satiation, and virtues. And the opposite of Dr. Happy would be Dr. Quiet. That's your sleep, your self-time, introspection, your spiritual development, anabolic rebound, and inside. And then on the yang side, under Dr. Happiness, you'd have Dr. Movement. Working out or working in, flexibility, functionality, rhythm, your needs or ability, expression, pumping, integration, transformation, and warmth. And on the yin side, beside Dr. Movement, would be Dr. Diet. So your food quality, your hydration, your metabolic typing, legacy, your outside, and your satiation. So creating your own 4 doctors' core values. Your core values represent your own living code of conduct. So your moral codes that are life affirmative to you, and your ethics are codes of conduct that may or may not be life affirmative. Sometimes ethics are bestowed upon us. So ethics might be something that, are given to us in the school system or by governments or by organizations. But they're not always life affirmative for what our dream goal or objective is. So your 4 doctors' core values should affirm your dream, both life affirmative and reflect the values you choose to live. So your doctor happiness core values, what makes you happy? Your one love equals your happiness. So your one love shouldn't just be, money, fame, big house. It should be, what makes you happy. So clearly define what it is that creates happiness in your life. Don't expect others to be responsible for making you happy. Your chosen dream should be happy making for you, or it is unlikely to be sufficient motivation for lasting change. So then your Dr. Quiet core values. There are 3 kinds of rest. There's active rest, which is 60% of your max effort or 70% of your max heart rate. Active rest is performing your specific movement or exercises, activities at a reduced intensity. Active rest should never reduce your ability to improve on your primary activities. So if active rest could be like walking, or maybe just going for a swim. Nothing that would, he often says, like, you should do it breathing through your nose, and it shouldn't dry your mouth. You should be able to do it on a full stomach. It should, it shouldn't be draining. Active rest should build you back up. It should be energizing. It should pull energy from you. There's passive rest, intensity as above, but performed with activities that are different from goal or primary activity. Passive rest should not create stress that reduces your ability to perform your primary activities. So similar, but more passive. And then total rest, sleep. 10-20 minute naps can be a big help. Sleep is the chief anabolic force essential for the body and emotions and mind. How much active rest do you need to live your dream? And then what are your passive rest opportunities? Perhaps in your daily life or in your week. And how much sleep do you need to have the healing time and energy to live your dream? Sometimes when we're living our dream, you can get by on 6-7 hours of sleep. But if you're working a shitty job, or dealing, maybe with a crappy living situation, or a boss, or some type of stress, then, we need more time to recover. We need like 8-9 hours of sleep, because we're just not getting enough rest to recover from all the BS we're dealing with in our daily lives. So he has a quote here from a wise yogi: if you don't go within, you go without. So Dr. Quiet's all about going within. It's quiet time, it's meditation, it's breath work, it's slowing things down, it's introspective time. It could be journaling, it could be reading a book, listening to a podcast or an audio book, and just lying down or relaxing. Then you have your doctor movement. Your doctor movement core values are: how much movement do I need to be healthy? How much workout time do I need to accomplish my specific dream? And then how much work in time do I need to accomplish my specific dream? So workout would be, your yang exercise. So maybe it's running, it's swimming, it's, maybe going to the gym, or maybe it's Zumba, it's dance, it's, yoga. It's the challenging physical movement that builds your body. And then working would be the opposite. So that would be like Qigong. So it's something that creates energy by, subtle movement. So working in could be your breath work paired with movement. It's movement that's gentle enough to not raise your heart rate. So like I said, you should be able to do it on a full stomach. You should be able to do it and your mouth not dry out. So it's not fatiguing you, but it's a little bit of movement, and what it actually does is, the way a car battery works is, when you start the car, the battery feeds the alternator, and the alternator needs electricity to create electricity. So it doesn't charge itself, it doesn't create power, it needs the power to feed it to create even more power. So that's what working out is, we're taking that power, that chi we have, and we're using it up. This is, we're building our chi, but that takes chi to create it. So we need to do a qigong or a movement to create more power and energy inside our body. We're not going to just create it from just sitting there. So how much time, how much movement do you need to be healthy? And that depends. An example would be, if your dream goal or objective is to climb Mount Everest, well, we're not going to spend much time you running on a treadmill, because there's no running up Mount Everest. But it might be, you put on a big backpack and you walk once a week, and then maybe it's like you walk 2 hours all winter in the cold to get ready for, if that was your dream, for example. So how much movement do you need? If it's, to be a dance instructor, well, that's going to look different than if it's just to be, a desk person. So whatever your one love or your dream goal is, that's going to dictate, okay, how much movement do I really need? But also there's a certain amount that you need to be healthy, but what does it look like with your dream? If it's like, oh, I want to be able to travel here and here and here, well, you want to be healthy, you want to be active. If it's like, oh, I want to go, not Everest, but maybe it's like, oh, I really want to go, climb this mountain in Peru. Well, it's like, okay, you need a certain level of health for that, and then it might be a similar thing. Okay, we're not going to get you to go to the gym and lift weights, but we might have you lifting a heavy backpack on your back and hiking up a hill, and that would be more attuned to what your one love is. So your doctor diet core values. What quality of food will best fuel you in the experience of creating and living your dream? What is the best proportion of plant and animal foods for you? How often should you eat to best fuel your dream activities? What foods can you use as rewards for sticking to your own program? And that's something you'll sense through yourself is, do you, you said you don't do well with eggs. So there'd be a thing, okay, maybe that's something that's not on not fueling your dream values. How, is it, maybe you try vegan, it's like, okay, maybe this feels really good, or maybe it doesn't. It's like, okay, I like meat, but I prefer, a small portion of meat with a bunch of vegetables. Or maybe it's, you need more, fruity drinks or fruit in your life to get, to where you need. Maybe it's coffee. Maybe you need a shot of espresso every morning to kick your butt up so you can work through the first stage of making your tarot cards. Maybe there's something like that, like maybe it's a stimulant or something that's going to lend itself, but also not, also balancing it out with the two forces. If you're pressing that stimulus button all the time, you have to make time for the relax, or vice versa. And you can do that through, quizzes online, or a book like this, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. There's questionnaires in here that you can go through, and that would help you figure out, okay, not too sure, but take a questionnaire, you'd be like, okay, maybe I'm more, 1/3 meat, 2/3 vegetables and fat, or maybe I don't need to operate on a lot of fat, I need more protein. And that'll give you guidance on how to move forward with your one love. So then we had our one love, our two forces, our three choices, our 4 doctors. Now we're at 5 essential program design factors. So these are the 5 factors that we need to consider for our one love. So how much time can you / your client realistically commit? So if you're working with people, or you're working by yourself, maybe it's a passion project, or maybe it's a job. How much time can you actually commit? So most people overstate their authentic time commitment by 50%, particularly when being asked by someone else. So if I were to ask you, say I was coaching you, I said, Riley, how much time can you commit? And you might be like, I'm going to do 2 hours a day. Well, and realistically, it might not be 2 hours a day. It might be 1 hour a day, or maybe it's 1 hour every 3 days. So you don't want to burn out, or, you want to be realistic and not rigid. So how much time can you commit to that? Be 100% honest and realistic when committing to yourself. So for your dream development program, really think like, okay, I have work, I have this, I have that, and then there's, this class I do, so I can really commit, 2 hours a week. If that's all it is, that's what it is. And then and then you can structure with those 10 questions we ask, okay, how can I make the most of that 2 hours that I have a week? And then energy, how much energy do you need to commit to your dream program? Do you need to reduce or eliminate other activities that are less essential to completing the program? And do you have the needed energy? So maybe that's something where you have to go to doctor diet. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, like I get headaches and stomach aches all the time. Well, then we have to go to doctor diet and see, okay, what can you do with doctor diet so we have the right amount of energy? Or maybe it's doctor quiet and it's like, oh, I'm just tired all the time. I can't muster up the energy to chase after my dream. Well, then we have to look at doctor quiet to see, okay, how can we get the rest you need so you have the full energy and oomph to chase after that dream and jump out of bed every morning getting after it. So 3 is your willingness. On a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you to complete a dream program? When your willingness is less than 7, chances of non-completion go significantly up. If you're not comfortably at a score of 7 out of 10, chances are good your dream needs to be reevaluated for authenticity. And sometimes it could be in the moment, sometimes it can be, you're part way through and you're like, okay, how much more willing am I to move forward? Well, maybe it's just need more quiet time, or maybe you need a pick-me-up, or to, if your dream is a 10 out of 10, you have no problem literally hopping out of bed every morning. You won't be like, oh, I don't want to get up, press the alarm clock, I don't want to take the bus to go here and do this. If your dream is big enough, you'll kick the sheets off and run out of bed smiling because your dream is just that exciting, that much fueling you. So number 4 is the finances. In your dream program, realistic in terms of your available finances. If not, can you acquire financing without adding unwanted stress to your life? So the example of the tarot deck, if that was a dream goal or objective, and you didn't have the okay, could I find someone who would, can I sell the first 100 decks to crowdfund getting it designed and printed? Or, maybe, a relative would give me $1,000 to go to a printer and get it started. So, things like that. Can your program be staged that it can be effectively completed within your budget? And being realistic about financial abilities relative to the program requirements is essential if you want to live your dream. So, knowing your compass and where you want to move forward. Is it, okay, I don't have the finances right now to commit, 4 hours a week to this dream I've got, but I can do half an hour a week. And then I'm going to work toward opening that up. I'm going to get a part-time job or a full-time job so I can, afford to do this 4 or 5 hours a week. And then number 5, the equipment or resources available. What equipment/resources do you need to complete your dream program? Have you budgeted such needs when considering financial requirements And do you need to rent, borrow, or create specific equipment? So if we go back to the Tarot example, well, maybe you don't have a printer, but maybe you have a computer. Or maybe you have to borrow a computer. Or maybe you're like, oh crap, like, I really want to do this thing. I will need to buy a new laptop. So do you have the equipment available and the resources? Maybe the resource is a person. Maybe it's a place that you need to visit. Maybe it's an artist that you need to be like, oh, like I really want this artist to work with me. But they're like, no, it's, you know, only on Sundays and it's $50 an hour. So knowing what resources or equipment, like if it's printing equipment, or maybe it's just like you need a new set of paint and markers or something to create the visions in your mind for a deck. Knowing what those are so you can better plan out your dream. So the 6 check foundation principles. So this is our last. Well, we can go further, but we need to go crazy. But so I think we can end on the 6. So the 6 check foundation principles would be sleeping, nutrition, hydration, thinking, breathing, and movement. And your 4 doctors express the 6 principles. So your yin principles would be Dr. Diet and Dr. Quiet. Your sleeping, nutrition, and hydration. And your yang principles would be Dr. Happy and Dr. Movement. Your thinking, breathing, and movement. So approximately 90 to 95% of all diseases result from a faulty diet and lifestyle practice. So health is a matter of balance, like a 3-legged stool. To be successful, your program must include nutrition, Dr. Diet, exercise, Dr. Movement, and mental, spiritual, Dr. Quiet. Most programs fail by focusing only on one aspect. So putting in your sleep, you know, what you're eating, how much you're drinking. Maybe you're not even drinking enough and you're getting headaches, and it's like that's paralyzing you during the day. Or maybe you peter out by 4 o'clock because you don't have the energy, because maybe, you know, maybe you're having too much food in the morning, or too much sugar in the morning, and it's crashing your blood sugar, and then that's crapping out on your days, your ability to have the energy to move forward. Maybe it's a breathing thing. Maybe it's not a breathing thing. For some people, the breath can, you know, not having a proper breathing pattern can stop them from working out or have other stuff like that. Or maybe it's a movement thing. Maybe you're not moving enough, and that's, you know, causing issues with energy or pain, or, you know, sometimes it could just make your thoughts stagnant. So you're coming at a standstill because you're like, oh geez, like I just can't think of this next thing I need to do.